Good evening. This is Jared with Carbon Digital, and today we're going to be going over brown sugar solutions. Jade had asked right here, Jade asked for us to pull it to shreds, and so that's what we're going to do. So right out the gate, I see a few different colors. I see black, orange, white, and a few different levels of gray. Not too much of an issue there. I like the contrast. It looks pretty well. So I'll start at the top and just go down off of this home page, and we'll kind of use that as a baseline to flow. So the first thing here is that the logo, it changes opacity when you hover, which is a good thing. It lets people know that they can click on it. The text here, I like how it changes, but the letter spacing is too much for this navigation. You want to make that smaller. And so what I'm doing here is I'm looking at the actual, see, letter spacing. I would probably make that nothing. There we go. See, that looks a lot cleaner to read. And then take your take your padding on the actual list item. Padding left. Let's do 10 pixels, and then do padding right 10 pixels. You can see that makes it a lot better. So what we'll do is we'll find, there we go. Nope, that's not it. We'll just go through and add padding to all these list items. And that kind of shows you that it's spacing it out a little bit, which is exactly what you want. You want it to be spaced out, but you want it to be able to be readable. So that's the first thing I would do, is change the letter spacing on the anchor element, and then resize your padding so that it kind of fits better within the page. The next thing that I'm looking at here is this little drop down here. So I like how there's a branded color applied to it, and when you click on it, you can choose from these different languages, but this right here, this is a default browser thing. So I'm using the Firefox Dev Edition. So we'll check out Chrome. I'm sorry, this is Safari. You can see how that looks different, and that's because this is set up to be a browser default. And so what you want to do is you actually want to style that so that it's consistent across all browsers, okay? And that's going to give you more uniformity. But also, when I look here in the bottom left-hand corner, I also see the translate button, which gives you the different country flags. So I don't think you need two of those. Let's see, two of those, one in each corner. I would probably just put one here in the top. And the reason why is because you have a sticky header. And so I would probably put that where this is over here and just keep it there, because that way it's still accessible at all times. You don't have to worry about where this is at, because when you start looking at mobile responsiveness, you're going to have to remove this at some point. And putting this language selector in the header actually allows you to be more concise and maintain consistency across multiple devices and multiple browsers, while also styling that. So if you can take this translate button and put that up here with the country names as well, that would be really, really, really nice. The next part of this is right here. So you have this text, and then you have this background color, and then you have an image behind it, which kind of looks weird. I would take out this color and then center this text right here. But also note that you have 3 different fonts, 3 different sizes, 3 different line heights and letter spacings. So you want to kind of make that a little more concise. So let's see what we can do to play with this to make this look a little better. There we go. Let's see what we got. So this section, and that's a section. Okay, so I'm going to expand this. Column. Let's look. So that background color is there. Yeah, so you added that language thing inside of its own section. Okay. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take all of this, edit as HTML, and then I'm going to hide this section. Display none. Ha, wrong one. Let me go down one to the right one. So now we actually have this this section here. So this one is where we will actually, there's a background overlay, a container, row, element. Oh my goodness. Widget wrap. Okay, cool. So let's take this stuff and put it inside. Kind of like that, right? And then you can play with this section. Let's make it a little bit taller. Height, let's do 75 viewport height. And then when we close this out, it looks a lot better right there. And so obviously this text needs to be centered and properly aligned and stuff like that, but that looks a lot better than what it was before. And if you can find a way to get rid of this gray bar as well and take that and put it up there, I would do that. So let's move on. I like that you got the images fixed in the background, which is definitely a good effect to have. Let's move on to the next section. All right. Okay. This looks fine. I mean, there's not much here. I would want to see more. I would want to learn more, because these images don't necessarily paint a picture. If you were to even take the text, right, and put that in the middle, so basically make these a border and put that text in the center, that would make it look better, but this doesn't really do nothing. This doesn't do anything for me, so that's not really as helpful as it could be. This next section here, though, having this text span the entire width of the page when you've already delivered content, well, that's not showing helpful, but we already have content that's showing breakpoints here through the header. Like that's where all of your content's at, and then all of a sudden you change directions and go completely full width. So you don't want to do that, because that diminishes the user experience of the website. But I mean, this section here is not tall enough to let me even see what's behind it, so I don't know what's happening. So this is not really helping. So make the section taller, bring the text in, and same thing with this one. Make the section taller, bring the text in. Those two things alone will greatly increase this, but the text itself needs some work as well. Like this is too long of a title. I would just, instead of are you wondering what makes us different from every other creative digital studio? It's a mouthful. What makes us different? It's concise, it's to the point, and it's not a mouthful. So take some of this text and kind of rewrite it, and so that it presents a better message. Because so far you're presenting that you're not consistent, and that's a problem. Another thing here is you can see that this text here, the letters are too far spaced out, so it's not as easy to read. So you want to fix that letter spacing on these as well. With using a black overlay on this image, you want to make this text white. Having this gray dark text on a dark image doesn't really help. You know, it's the concept of black on black. Black design on a black fabric doesn't really show up that well. And so that's why you need to focus on contrast here in this section. Moving forward, let's see what we have here. Okay, so this back to top button, not a real, I don't see any issues with that, not a big deal. Okay, I presume that this contact us section and everything below is your footer, which I could look at the code and check it, but I mean, it just looks like this is your footer. If you're not going to have anything else here, then you want to center that content, right? Because you're filling this space, and this space could be viewed as just outside the spectrum, but all of this other space here you're not using. So if you're not going to use that space, then this should be centered right here in the middle. So let's see what we have. Well, right out the gate, we got some issues here. You see these yellows? Those are your margin. And for some reason, if you look down here, you can see that it's set to auto, but auto is not being stretched all the way across the page, which is a problem. So you definitely need to look at this. Let's see, max width is probably has something to do with that. Let's unset that, see what it looks like. Yeah, that's not helping at all. So I like to do something really cool. There's this thing, I call it the perfect center, right? So the item container should be set to position relative, and it is. So that way, the inside you can do position relative left 50%, right? And then we're going to use transform, and then the translate X. And we're going to translate that minus 50% of the item. And that will perfectly center this content right here. And then from there, you can go into actually centering it. So that's not going to help unless you're centering the text inside. So like this, text align center. There we go. I'll just copy that and throw that in these other ones. There we go. Nope, not that one. List item. Course. All right, you're definitely gonna want to play with this to center this content in the middle of the page. So maybe unset your margins and center that content in the middle of the page. It's also probably a good idea to take, let's refresh that, there we go. I would also take these icons and put them up here to kind of evenly space out the information. But this one here, you don't really need. And the reason why is because you already have your icons here. So you need to be concise. You need to follow one style. If you're going to use these icons, get rid of this. If you're going to use how many followers you have, get rid of this. Pick one or the other. And then I noticed you don't have a copyright line. You don't have a terms and conditions, and you don't have a privacy policy. Those three things should be on every website here in the footer. So instead of using the menu again here at the bottom, which is irrelevant because you have this sticky header, I would take this out and I would plug in your actual copyright line, a terms and conditions link, and a privacy policy link, and then I would probably take this entire section here at the bottom and put it down here inside of this section with the image. That way it's more concise. So there's that. Let's look at what we do. Again, with the same thing here with the text. Excuse me. The letter spacing is too large. You want to bring that down and then scale the content inside. This image doesn't really do anything. It doesn't really say much. I mean, it says these things here, but it doesn't really help. I don't know how to relay that. It's not as powerful as it could be. But using that same shape here and then applying that down here, that does boost a little. It makes it look better. And so for these services, I would actually rank them, put them in an order that actually I would do a couple of things. The first one is you can put them in order from, you can follow this order here that's on this little honeycomb trail here. You can also put them in alphabetical order. You could put them in an order of relevance, right? So if making websites is your primary function, then that should be at the top, because there's no guarantee that people are going to scroll down. There's no guarantee. So you want to put the most important stuff towards the top, and that kind of gives people something to look forward to as they scroll down. So you might want to reorder these. So printing, graphics, social media marketing, those all kind of tie closely together, but present them in an order that makes sense. And another thing that you can do, since you're using Elementor, you can use split testing. So every page you can create multiple versions to see which one gets more engagement, which will help you decide what the better direction is. And this down here, there's no call to action on this page. You need one. You need one here at the top. You might want to add one inside of each of these, but that could get cumbersome. But if you definitely need one here, because if they get to the end and then it's like, now what? Now nothing. Let's close the page. Move on. So you definitely need some call to actions. Let's look at this next one here. I don't even know what that means. Denizens. Same thing up top here. All right. So you definitely need a picture. That's going to help. But this humongous paragraph needs to be redone. You want to present this in a way that makes people want to read more. And one humongous paragraph is not the way to do that. You want multiple paragraphs. If you can incorporate bullet items, lists, that's going to help you as well. So you probably want to restructure how that's done. Start the revolution. Oh, that's your contact page. So right off the gate, this here is not at the bottom of the screen. So you want to fix that. You can set this section to be, I don't know, you can probably do a calc formula. So 100 viewport height minus the header minus the footer. So that's what, minus 50, 100 pixels, something like that, which would make this stick to the bottom of the page. And you probably want to bring your content in as well. If you're going to go with the full width, do it across the board. If you're going to bring your content in and make it boxed, do it across the board. So basically just pick one thing and be consistent with it. So all of this is really hard to see. Really, really hard. So what I would do is I would bring that content in so you can still see this image in the background. And I would make this more white. I would set it to opacity 1. And then you want to take these what are they freaking called? These inputs. You want to take these inputs and make them more visible. So you can see how where the color is at now. And then you click on it and it activates a focus pseudo class and it gets a little bit darker. I would make those darker to start with. That way they're more visible. And then this blue here does not go with your brand at all. So right out the gate, I would make that button this orange color right there. And then set it with an opacity hover would be good. So that looks like that covers all the pages. Let's make sure this search works. Ugh. So you see that blue bar here, this top bar of this thing? You want to make every bit of this branded. So that's not going to work. Let's see how this works. Okay, you're definitely using the Ocean WP theme. And all of this stuff should be branded. And you probably want to go into the widgets section and swap out this sidebar stuff. But I think that's pretty much it. One of the things I noticed is that you don't have a blog. And a blog is very powerful for attracting people. A blog is one way for you to reach out to people across the internet. And even if you write one article a week, that is still something that you should be applying. It just helps if you have more articles, you have more content, you have more options for people to be able to find you on the internet. And that's something that probably everyone should implement. So that's pretty much everything that I have. I mean, just make everything more consistent, give it a little more branding vibe to it. Can't see anything else here that's too much out of whack, but for the most part, it's a very good start. And as you said, you did this like 8 months ago when you knew nothing. It's pretty good start for knowing nothing. So not all bad, but it still does need some work. And don't think that I'm being hard on you. My website looks like crap. I'll show you. As soon as it loads. As soon as it loads. Whenever it loads. See? Already. Oh, man. There we go. Yeah, see this crap here? That's garbage. I know it's garbage, and I still have it because I focus less on my website and more on how I'm helping other people and how I'm providing. So just don't sweat it. I mean, it's one of those things where all of us, every web developer out there struggles to define what their own brand is going to be. I'm good at helping other people do this, but doing it myself is almost an impossible task. So don't stress it. Every one of us goes through this. So that's pretty much all I have for this quick little review. If you guys have any questions or anything, just let me know, and I'll see what I can do to help you out. Until next time, happy coding.